afternoon, everybody. My name is Gregor Newland. I'm with Ellipse Solutions, and I'm joined today by Bobby Small. And we're going to talk about D365 migration planning and how you can save some money to move this forward through Microsoft programs. So Bobby's here. Bobby and I have both been in the channel for a long time, but I've always worked for partners, whereas Bobby has also worked for AX and D365 end user companies. So I wanted to make sure he was on the call today to provide some feedback from his perspective as someone who used to work for a customer and how he perceived these sort of things moving forward. So let's talk for a little bit about this. And so we're going to talk about this within the format of a migration to Dynamics 365 from a previous version, but these programs are also applicable in other ways too, which we'll talk about. So let's get started. So you're thinking about it's time to migrate. And I will tell you that generally speaking, with most of our customers, the reasons they've decided to upgrade to Dynamics 365 usually break down into two broad categories. One is they'll have something in their company charter that says they cannot have an ERP system that's not under current publisher support. So that's beginning to occur now with AX 2012. It's no longer supported by Microsoft. So now we're seeing a heightened acceleration of people who want to move to Dynamics 365. We're also seeing a great deal of demand from people who now see additional functionality in Dynamics 365 that they want to take advantage of. Sometimes it's even the functionality that was there in AX 2012, but they elected to wait till the upgrade to add this additional functionality. So this is what we're generally seeing in the field when it's time to migrate.
It's a good point, Gregor. I was going to interject to say, having come from that end user side, in an earlier version 2009 environment, a lot of things that we customized were now a part of the subsequent version. So it was just a great reason to be in the next level.
And that's exactly what we're seeing. And so the associated projects when it's time to migrate is you have to do a couple of assessments. And so there's going to be some associated projects involved in this. And the easiest way to think about this, and the way I encourage you to think about this, is as two separate projects. First is the technical upgrade, or what we call the lift and shift. And that's where we actually pick up the old version and put it into the new version sort of as is. And there are a lot of steps to that technical upgrade, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But generally speaking, that's the first step. And then the second step, which it can actually begin after the code upgrade has completed, is to add that additional functionality, that additional stuff that you're looking to add. Sometimes it can be small. We want to start using fixed assets, or we want to increase our usage of budget planning. Or sometimes it can be quite large. We're moving off of the third party and we want to add warehouse management and inventory control that we used to do in a third-party software. And so these projects, these additional functionality projects can be large or small, but they're always out there and we see them all the time. But do know that you need to think of those things in two different buckets. So you got to deal with your management now. And so your management is saying to you, generally speaking, what we find is management is saying to these people, well, this is great. This is great that you divide this up into two projects, but what's it going to cost? What kind of a total cost of ownership are we actually looking here to make this happen in a way? And they sort of pitch the basketball back to you to say, okay, what kind of cost? So what do? Generally speaking, is you reach out to your partner. And your partner looks at you and says, okay, I need to do two assessment projects. I need to do an upgrade assessment to look and see how your lift and shift is going to work. And then we need to do a traditional implementation fit gap for the additional functionality that you want to add. And at that point, they're usually talking real money to get these assessments done. So Now you've got to deal with your partner in these areas. So the partner, you ask your partner, I'm looking for an estimate. And their perception is, well, we have to do 2 projects in order to give you an estimate. And in order for a partner to do that and to do it in a credible way, they have to pull billable resources from the field, because you're going to need business analysts, architects, and functional consultants for both of these projects, both to do the examination for the technical upgrade and to do the additional functionality fit gap. And your partner has to pull people from the field, so he can't just do it. Your partner cannot just do this as a cost of sale. It actually has to be billable projects to get this done. And this is for 2 reasons. One, partners are getting swamped. The upgrade funnel right now is huge. We're dealing with a very, very high level of demand. And 2, the depth of understanding that we need to have of the technical upgrade and the additional functionality simply cannot be handled by sales and pre-sales individuals. This requires skilled personnel in these 3 areas in order to give you a tight estimate, a tight timeline, and what it's really going to take for you to do these 2 projects, the technical upgrade and adding the additional functionality. And they're going to come back to you and say, here's a 5-figure number, and this is what it's going to cost for you to get these projects done. So Bobby, what did you do now?
That's a good question. I was just going to say, perfect time for me to interject, because one of the things when I first started looking at upgrading was kind of right in that lane you were talking about, Gregor. I was reaching out to my partner and kind of expecting this free assessment, and and again, some of this was driven by the management's reluctance to spend any money to do any of this assessment. So I was kind of put in that position, but even so, I kind of thought, hey, this is something that, like you mentioned, could be done as part of the cost of sale. Like, if we end up going with you guys to do this upgrade, you can just roll it in, whatever. But I came to realize, as I got into it, the importance of actually getting a detailed assessment to make sure you're getting the right project, so you understand what you're doing. So for me, as I started working through the number of iterations of trying to get an upgrade done at my organization, I came to realize how important it was to get the proper assessment. And so it was working with that partner and trying to that was kind of the next step. I came to that realization, and then I brought the partner on to kind of start that conversation with management.
Well, and what we found is when they go back to management and say, okay, I'm going to have to spend this money to figure out how much money I'm going to eventually spend, it's often not well received by management. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, we went through a number of iterations of bringing in folks, experts, to show some of the functionality, to show some on a high level, here's what it would look like. But when it came down to the end, the bottom line, there was a sticking point on the amount of money it was going to take to get a true assessment. And as much as I, couched it in different ways and worked with management to get it done, I just, they were not willing to give up that money to do the assessment properly.
Yeah, it kind of puts you between a rock and a hard place. So the reality is Microsoft is aware of this. Okay. And so their initial reaction was to set up programs where money could find its way into the channel, and end customers could go to Microsoft for money to pay the partners to do it. The problem was when they first rolled it out, it was a true alphabet soup. All of the ECIF, ASF, ACM, there are all of these acronyms, all of these programs out there where Microsoft will pay for it either in full or most of it on a customer's behalf. But the customer doesn't always know that they're out there, and Microsoft's not great at marketing these programs. So Microsoft has an expression that they use in-house. It's called dark to cloud. And what that expression means is that all of the Microsoft field sales people are incented to move people to the cloud. They consider an account that's still on premise or work that's being on premise to be, in their words, dark. So what they're doing is they're incenting their people to move from dark to cloud. And that's what their field sellers are always trying to do. So when the field sellers went back and said, we have this huge hesitation here because partners aren't going to do these assessments for free, but we got to move these people from dark to cloud, we need help accelerating the change. We need some help. And bottom line, that help is money. Like it or not, that money changes everything. Money runs the world. And in order for us to get this change done, we have to put money in partners' hands for them to do these projects. And so Microsoft, their decision was, let's put some money on the table. Let's put money on the table, make it available so that customers can pay for these assessments without being out of pocket, so that partners can pull actual billable resources from the field and get it done. So they created all of these funding programs to get it done. The problem was the way they rolled them out. They're very difficult to navigate. There's a bunch of them. Different Microsoft people, different partners are aware of it. Some are aware, some aren't. So this was the situation that we found. So we found that they would pay for technical upgrade assessments, and they would pay for additional functionality fit gaps. And the reason they will is back up to this dark to cloud, is that they want to incent people to move to the cloud. And when they make these decisions, they're very cynical decisions. What Microsoft is looking at is, look, Mr. Customer, if you're going to drive license sales in the cloud by moving to D365, or you're going to add functionality that's going to drive even more licensing sales, you're going to move your entire warehouse onto D365, that's going to add a bunch of users. So Microsoft was naturally motivated to get this done. But that is the analysis they use. They look at the number of licenses the customer is going to have in the cloud, additional licenses for additional functionality, and they make some very cynical decisions about how much money to pitch in. They'll even pay for ideation sessions. That is to say, sitting down with your SMEs and your senior management and doing whiteboard sessions about new areas of functionality, new things that you want to do. They'll even pay for those. So, we think that right now a lot of customers and a lot of partners are leaving money on the table by not taking advantage of these programs.
Yeah, I guarantee it. I mean, like I said, I was amazed to have learned about this well after I left the private space and moved into where we are now. That we missed out on this opportunity perhaps to get some traction on a much needed upgrade. I mean, it would have been game changing.
It's really a shame. I talk to customers at trade shows and at user group meetings and all of that, and I can spot it. I can see when they're hesitant to move forward because they understand that they're going to have to spend some money to move forward. And this relieves them of that. And every time I talk to a customer about this, their eyes light up because they had no idea this was available to them. So you have to have a Microsoft resource and a Microsoft partner. So the Microsoft resource, your Microsoft rep will be the person who signs off on this as we submit it to Microsoft for approval. So you have to have both of these resources. So you need to know who your Microsoft rep is. If you don't know who your Microsoft rep is, ask your partner. Okay, because you need to start building a relationship with that person. If you're going to move forward, this person is going to have to know and understand your account. If your partner doesn't know who your Microsoft rep is, you have another whole set of problems, which I can't solve on this phone call. I will tell you this. We do run into customers who don't know who their Microsoft rep is, and we are able to find out who they are. We do have a way through the Microsoft Partner Network to find out who your rep is and to find out how open they are to this sort of thing. I will tell you that they're all open to it. Anything that they see that will accelerate your movement to the cloud, they're going to do. Now, if your partner doesn't know about these offerings, you really do have a problem. And the reason is because, frankly, there's an extensive learning curve. We have spent a lot of time researching these programs, understanding how Microsoft can give you money to move forward, and it hasn't been easy. It's a little bit of a slog, but I will tell you that over the past 2 or 3 years, we've done dozens of these. And it is amazing how easy it really is to do once you've mounted that learning curve. The other thing you need to know is you have to be an approved vendor with Microsoft to do this, because they're going to pay us directly for work that we do for you. So only certain partners are approved vendors. Okay. Now, any partner can get there. Any partner can go through the approval process, and chances are get approved. Any partner can mount this learning curve. The problem is, if they haven't already done it, it's really going to slow you down. So if you have a partner who knows this, who understands it, move forward. If your partner doesn't know about this, you may want to consider talking to a partner who does know about this. I'm not going to encourage that. I'm just going to tell you it's something you may want to think about. So how does it work? Pretty simple. So the first thing that happens is your partner is going to map it to the appropriate Microsoft program. They're going to say, okay, these are the things they want to do. They want to add functionality in this area, and they want to do a technical upgrade. Well, there are different programs, so the partner is going to know what all those programs are, and they're going to map it to the appropriate program. And then the partner works with your Microsoft rep, and your Microsoft rep assists in the Microsoft approval for the funds, because at this point, Microsoft looks at what you're trying to do, looks at the licenses that are in play, and says, okay, we'll approve this, or in some cases, they'll approve the whole amount. In fact, in most cases, in some cases, they'll approve a partial amount. We very rarely get turned down on this. I personally have never been turned down for any of my customers, and I've only had one where they only paid partial. They paid for the whole project, and the approval usually takes plus or minus 10 days. That's about what it takes. So it doesn't really slow you down very much moving forward with this kind of a thing. And so then what happens is then Microsoft issues a PO directly to the partner for your project. They say, partner, go out and do this work, and this is how much we're going to pay you to do this work, to do this assessment for this customer. And then Microsoft pays us directly when the project is complete, so that you don't have to get involved, your money doesn't have to get involved, and the project can actually begin. And we can move it forward. Now, in order to move it forward, here's what we're going to do. So for the technical upgrade assessment, a technical upgrade assessment, the factors within that are usually this. You run a code conflict report. You see, have you written code in areas where Microsoft has changed that line of code in Dynamics 365? Does it need to be changed? Does your change need to stay in place? So you do a code conflict report. If you run these reports on your own, let me tell you, they have thousands of lines. Don't let that intimidate you. Chances are most of those thousands and thousands of lines are simple syntax changes, because all code modifications have been moved now to extensions. So you have to change syntax in order to get that done. But there are some that are true conflicts that need to be examined. Also, you need to perform a database analysis. A lot of people think that has to do with size. It really doesn't. The database size in this case doesn't matter. What matters is the complexity of the interrelationships. Have you created your own tables? Are those tables mapped correctly? All of that. So because the two portions of an upgrade are, of course, code and data, right? So, and then from that, the partner can then develop a timeline and a budget. So what you'll end up with a timeline, a budget, a detailed project plan, a division of responsibilities, and a licensing estimate. Now, what else do you need to take to management? Because this will tell management what you need to do your technical upgrade. And again, chances are Microsoft has paid for all of this.
I mean, this is huge. Like I said, game changing in my opinion. It would have taken me from, knocking at the front door of an upgrade for, what seemed like an eternity to, being inside, sitting down comfortably on the couch, discussing the next move.
Well, it isn't funny. I mean, it's almost like Microsoft was reading your mail, right? Because Microsoft got it when they began to see the adoption wasn't moving as quickly as they thought, and it's moving very quickly, but they thought it would move even faster than that. They began to see where the problem was, which is a typical enterprise ERP problem, in that you have to do an assessment before you can move forward. And when they began to see it was slowing it down, they said, well, let's throw in some cash. So it's the same with the additional functionality. When you do that project, there will be a traditional fit gap. And anybody who's done an implementation knows that drill, right? You go through granularly the functionality you're looking to add. You say, okay, this is a fit, this is not a fit, this will have to develop something, and you estimate the time to develop any gaps, any ISVs you have to put in to fill those gaps. And you just like you would a normal implementation, you do a fit gap for the area that you want to add. Again, develop a timeline and budget with a detailed project plan, a division of responsibilities, and a licensing estimate. So you have all of this now to take to senior management. And frankly, you haven't been out of pocket. Now you can talk to management with real numbers. Would this have been helpful for you where you work, Bobby?
It would have been mind blowing. Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how. I mean, at least twice a year I was working diligently to try to, especially in the last few years, as we got very far out of compliance with software and hardware issues with the version we were on, that having this the ability to again start this investment into the assessment would have been game changing.
It's remarkable to me how many customers don't know about this. And again, I get shock. I get surprise and shock from the customers that I talk to about this, because they had no idea. The most common question I get is, why didn't my partner tell me about this? Well, I'll tell you why. Because a lot of partners don't know about it, and I don't understand why. I mean, I get bombarded with these emails, so I know about it. It's just, I think that some partners like us have taken the time to invest. We've invested time, we've invested in research, and we understand how to leverage these programs and move them forward for you. So while I would never suggest that you change partners, if your partner is really struggling with this, call us. Even if you just need some coaching on how to move this forward, we're more than happy to help with this. And once it's approved, Microsoft will send you a copy of the PO. They send us to do the work for your approval. We do the technical assessment, we do the functional assessment, we send you the deliverables. They'll send you a proof of execution that you sign off on that says we did the work, we get paid, and you move on with your life.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the process of looking at an upgrade in this situation where your big hurdle is just getting management on board, this is a huge step to doing it.
Well, and so now we've finished the recording part of our session, and I think you and I are supposed to now go live and take questions from the crowd. Are you ready, Bobby?
I am ready, born ready.
Let's do it.
Yeah, classic.
I didn't see any questions in my chat field. Did you see any?
I didn't catch any questions at this point, but I know we have the opportunity just to reiterate any of the really important points here, because I know it's really good information. Like I said, as we pointed out in the presentation, as an end user, I kind of lived this world of trying to get an upgrade done, and if I'd had this information, it would have been exciting.
I think that the bottom line is, if you're looking for a tight budgetary estimate, you're looking for a tight timeline, you're looking for a full project plan, and you're looking for a licensing assessment, why not let Microsoft pay for that? And That way that when you go to senior management, you're not guessing about what the expenditure is going to be.
Yeah.
So, but Bobby, I think both of you and I, both of our contact information is available to the attendees.
Yep.
So if anybody does have a question or want to discuss this, please reach out to either one of us.
Yeah, I don't think you can miss me. I've been all over the chat room throughout the event, and like you said, you can find me on LinkedIn, find both of us there, and yeah, we're happy to help in whatever way we can.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, folks.
Yep. Thank you.